This show is in partnership with the Shine with Joy Foundation. With Shine, your generosity will fuel their mission of empowering Black women in STEM, improving maternal healthcare equity, and spreading joy through yoga and community programs. You can donate today on shinewithjoy.com and help make tomorrow a better place. Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Art of the Beholder, a show dedicated to all things eclectic in the world of art. I'm your host, Novo Day, and today we're going to be talking about art and music, focusing on the most covered song of all time, and that is Yesterday by the Beatles. To hash things out, we're once again joined by our favorite present and, of course, our certain future. And that is Mr. Philip Church of philipchurch.com. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me, and I just need to get this off my chest. I do like my noodles al dente.
Ooh, okay. Why do you say that?
I just like a little bit of extra texture. I don't like squishy, soft noodles. I would prefer them to have a little bit of almost like some bite, something solid to them.
Is that what you had for dinner?
They will
Is that why it's on top of
they will
mind?
support your sauce better if they're stronger too. If they're too floppy,
Okay.
you know. I did eat noodles today. Yes.
Is this somehow going to connect to yesterday?
No.
I was waiting for some weird connection, or you just want to tell the world?
I just
this is how
needed
I
to
like
get that
my
off my
noodles.
chest, man. That's just what
Okay.
I was thinking about besides yesterday. And I kind of knew that I would have
Yesterday.
an awesome reverse fake out on you if I did this. So
nailed it.
thank you for falling into my trap.
I plummeted into.
Welcome to
your trap.
2026, everybody.
2026, baby. We are warming up. We're getting the rust off.
You're warm. Don't say that.
And we're doing that by bringing you Yesterday by the Beatles. Now, for you longtime listeners, I talked about this in like season 1, beginning of season 2, and I said something along the lines of, mark my words, one day we will talk about yesterday and do a whole show. And guys, today is that day. Because there's a lot of reasons. Of course, we'll discuss them in the discussion section. But to sum it up, let's tell the good people why, Philip. Why are we talking about yesterday today? And that is
Because chronologically, duh.
because we live in the present, and yesterday was yesterday, but today is today, tomorrow is the future, and so every day is a yesterday. So of course we have to talk about yesterday. How was that? Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. I'm gonna keep that in.
That's good.
Okay. So guys, let's get to brass tacks. Why is Yesterday the most covered song of all time? Not necessarily the best song of all time. Not necessarily
Possibly one of. Don't get us wrong.
Yes, and we'll talk about why. It is definitely one of the best songs, but arguably, a lot of people say it's not the number one best song of all time. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the discussion section as well. But why is it the most covered popular song of all time? Well, guys, I would argue because it's the most accessible. Now, before we can discuss, of course, we all need a little background. It was written by Paul McCartney and credited to Lennon McCartney, though Yoko, if you're listening, I know you're a big fan of the show. It should really have been, should be McCartney Lennon if we're getting really technical.
You know it well. Oh no.
Come on, Yoko. Come on. You're a big fan. Just lock it up. It's time to do the right thing. It was released on September 13th, 1965. It was released on the Beatles album Help, I need somebody. Now, with it just recently passing...
Great, now we're going to get copyright stricken. You called
No,
our attention to it.
No. It was less than 8 seconds. Less than 8 seconds, Philip.
Good. Sitting there with a stopwatch. He's like, I'm going to sing
I need somebody.
7.5 of these bastards. You wait.
And it's technically a cover because I'm singing it. So it's...
yeah.
Well, no, I guess covers... Ooh, you're right. There is still copyright laws on covers, and we'll talk about that as well. That's definitely apropos to today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
But, guys, as already joked about in the
Paul.
intro, it is 2026. We have arrived. And that means that we just passed yesterday's 60th anniversary.
Whew.
So with it passing such a milestone in music history, of course, we got to give you all the deets on its history and accolades. But we're in the background section, so guys, we're going to keep it brief before we go on break. So to date, it has been covered a whopping 2,200 times and counting. It's been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1997, and it has been countlessly named as one of the greatest songs of all time by, including but not limited to, Rolling Stone magazine, the BBC, of course, MTV. So, guys, a lot of juicy middle to dive into. But before we do, of course, we're going to take a little break, hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
The best way to say thank you and to support us is by donating to the cause. In doing so, you'll be able to help us help fellow artists, creatives, and colleagues, promoting their work, the community as a whole, and why we got into this line of work to begin with, to not only make art, but also shine a light on our peers and the gems of the world. For all the hidden ones and the not so hidden that make life worth living, because if we can make things even a little bit better, it'll all be worth it. But we can't do this without you. So please, donate today. And remember, even a little goes a long way to build new bridges, new worlds, and new opportunities. Link and details on how can be found in the show notes below. Because together, we can do anything.
And we are back to do the thing, to conquer the world and tell you why Yesterday by the Beatles is so important and why it is covered, why it's been the most covered song of all time. And that's probably, Philip, a good place to start because it is the most covered song of all time. Again, not to be confused necessarily with the best, which is often credited to Imagine by John Lennon, Paul McCartney's good friend.
Irony. Friend?
Now,
Really?
now, also to note, this is the most covered popular song, pop song of all time. The most covered composition of all time actually usually gets credited to Summertime, which is a composition that we don't talk about enough or doesn't get as much spotlight because Yesterday usually kind of overshadows it. It's had an amazing history. And before we break it down, guys, you know us. It's AOTB. We're going to break it down with the song structure, its form, its the harmonies, the bridges, the melodies, the lyrics, all of the little things. But how we got there was important too. It was, as already talked about, written mostly by Paul McCartney, though I do think he's had help. And it's a very simple song. It's one of the few that only has Paul on the recording with a string quartet or quintet that was helping him kind of give some support to the piece.
I believe it was a quartet.
Was it a quartet?
Interestingly, well, yeah, to something you said a moment ago, Paul had shopped the song for so long that the rest of the Beatles were ripping
like sick of it
about it.
Yeah,
they're
over like,
it.
Paul,
and then
shut it down.
Interestingly, too, that Paul is technically in the song like 3 times because of how it was recorded. Like this,
the
whole
overdubs.
Thing, there's so much about
leakage.
this. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just going to say there's so many layers to this because I wasn't trying to jump points, but it really is another classic story of because of how seemingly simple it is, it's incredibly approachable. And that once you've approached it, and if you do take this simple 2 minutes, a very brief 2 minutes to
5
listen to
seconds,
the song,
baby.
That it's rich, that it's just complex enough, while having the facade of simplicity.
Yeah, it's deceptive.
I forget if it was the current producer or later that somebody else analyzing the song, but they basically called it it was like a shining example of McCartney's ability to create hybrid styles.
Absolutely. No, hybrid styles is a very apt name for this. And I would say, before we go into the actual song itself, I was joking about this in the intro. I think it is apropos because Yesterday constantly, I mean, it is open to interpretation. A lot of people, of course, think it's a song about love and loss. And I thought it was apropos because we are going through a sea change with different generations, and the internet cannot stop talking about 2016. Everyone, all of the Gen Zers that are the oldest one, I actually had to look this up, Philip. You're going to love this. The oldest ones are like 29. So what does that mean? They're about to turn 30, and then all of them are collectively thinking at the same time, as a lot of us did when we were younger, that, oh my God, when I turn 30, I'm going to be old or things are going to be different. Guys, I have good news for you. It's not that bad. It's fine. You're going to be fine. But it is human nature to get nostalgic about the past. And Yesterday is such a quintessential song. It's very meta because it is not only talking about that in the song, in the lyrics, in the body of the work, but we're doing that right now with culture. Every generation does that with culture. We're just doing it. It seems like for some reason the internet has grasped onto 2016 as the best year of the last, of the 21st century, the last 2 decades.
I just assumed it was just a decade that just 10 is an easy number, and it was just like a arbitrary step back 10
No,
years.
I mean, if that's the
Because
thing,
everyone knows that 2016 sucked.
right? Well,
Or
that's
maybe that we're trying to whitewash it now that we're in the situation that we're in, everybody's wanting so badly to just go ahead and start gaslighting ourselves.
No, I don't think it's that. I think it is
It is
human
for
nature.
some.
I actually tried to write about this in the entropy sessions. It had to be cut because it just didn't make sense to the overall narrative. But there is something about human nature where we are obsessed with what I call crystallizing the past. Because for some reason, with how our memories work, we are constantly, I mean, we say it this way a lot, right? We see the past with rose tinted glasses, right? It's always a little better, or, we always want to go back to the past. Where when you really think about it, it's kind of relatively difficult. There's difficulties, but there are joys along the way. That's just life, right? There's a yin and yang to it. And yesterday is just such a symbol of that idea. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it today. So Philip, let's start breaking it down. So as he already said, it's deceptive. It's harmonically rich, but melodically simple. And it's solo guitar,
Solo
string
vocals, I
quartet.
imagine.
You're right. I did put that in my notes. Not quintet,
Weirdly,
quartet.
mostly
No
solo vocals
drums,
except
no
for
bass.
one brief, clear overtracking in, like, the second version of the chorus.
Right. For
So
the
weird.
harmonies. Yeah.
Not even a harmony. It's just it's like it's an alternate take that barely
Oh,
made it
that's
in.
right.
There are
Okay,
not
yeah.
vocal harmonies in this.
That they dubbed together though still, right? I think I read.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah. I wasn't sure which
But it
part
made it
to
into the
make of
final
it.
cut, which is
Mhm.
fascinating.
Yep.
But with how miking was back in the day, they didn't have MIDI and things like that. So yeah, it started with clearly Paul with his guitar, and of course the guitar is going to bleed a little bit into the vocal mic, and the vocals are going to bleed a
Yeah,
little bit
like,
into the
that's
guitar mic,
okay, 2
right?
things that close to each other, of course. Like any good microphone, it should be bleeding. If not, you're
But
doing it wrong.
but the quartet I read also refused. This was at a time when they were still refusing to wear headphones to overdub, so they had to listen to it as a real live, take through their, I guess, monitors at the time. So that was bleeding into the string quartet's recordings of the overdubs too. So that's why it's so layered, but unintentionally layered. But I think that it gives it more gravitas, and it also is such a time capsule for its time, and that's also part of the reason it is so special. It was written. Well, this is up to debate. So it's written technically in the key of F major. Now, if you know anything about music theory, or if you don't, we're looking at you, Riles. The most simplistic way to look at majors and minors is majors is happy
Happy.
and blissful, and yeah, and minors are melancholy and sad. But it's a kind of a sad, melancholic song.
Put it in Beatles frames. Happy would be, just about like, "Doodle doo doo, here comes the sun." Very happy, happy as can be.
I'm so
Whereas minor
happy.
would be, "Rum dum dum dum, Eleanor Rigby." Ha 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 ha. Very, very minor. Very
Well,
creepy minor.
to your point about the hybrid approach is, though they start in F major and it's usually attributed to an F major key, it usually slides to D minor, so that minor takes over, and that's why it has the essence of something more melancholic and sad, because the D minor eventually takes over with the progressions of, because since it's descending, so it's not only descending with the scale. It has a D minor that kind of shines throughout the piece, and that's what gives it that melancholic feel. And it's still simple but perfect, right? No intro, no guitar solo, no instrumental bridge. We don't need that. So no single wasted moment.
It's a very economical song. Yes.
Economical. Yes. Ooh, I like that. Musically economical. Now, again, it appears simple, but is harmonically complex, as already stated. It has the descending lines, to be exact, is F, E, D, C, if you wanted to play it out. Now, this also takes the form of a jazz standard, the AABA. If you really want to get technical, though, it is AABABA, or the BABA, or the BAB is its own B, and then it
I'm
ends
pretty
with an
sure
A.
you just gave me 3 extra lives. I feel weird, like good, like weirdly good. I'm just sorry. Go on.
With the with the AABA. Are we talking about the Konami code now? Accidentally.
Yeah, a little bit.
At first, I was like, "Where the is he going with this?" And then I realized it's up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B,
I know.
start, select, start.
All those A's and B's. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it.
Had to.
Okay.
I was gonna
That's
do it.
staying in
I'm
too.
gonna do it.
We don't have enough gaming shows, guys. So we're slipping up into
trying.
our music shows.
I'm trying.
Now it technically doesn't have a traditional bridge section that we're used to, like in more modern pop music. That B section is technically a bridge. You know, it's yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. And then the B section includes the lines that go, why she had to go, I don't know. No, that part is the B section. So we have a distinct change in kind of the stanzas of the lyrical melodies, and you hear it pretty easily. But I think that's the beauty. So going back to my thesis, accessibility. Okay, the melody. So guys, as you well know, me and Philip are artists in a lot of different. We got our thing, right? But we are artists in a lot of different ways. We have our hands in a lot of different pots, right? We both started as musicians before we kind of branched out into other areas, and I think we're still musicians at heart. That's why we like to talk about the theory part of things. Now, I will be humble here and say I'm not a great singer. I have a tiny range, as joked about in other shows, but do I sound pretty good singing yesterday? And I think that's why.
Do it now.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. It's
okay. Yeah, it checks out.
So yeah, and I think that's why a lot of other musicians latched on to yesterday so much. And I think for non-musicians alike, they feel an instant connection, right? There is a I think there is, and this is why, just talking about the Beatles in general with their discography, is I've always said that there is genius. Here's a subthesis to my thesis. There is genius in simplicity.
Yeah.
And if you think of the entire career that is the Beatles, almost all of their songs that are these huge, monumental, international hits are very simple pieces. Yeah.
I will say one thing that especially stands out that you have to. I mean, everybody's familiar with the Beatles having insanely diverse works. That their career span saw so many different influences and changes and weirdness. Drugs, India, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But this is still early. Yesterday was on Help.
Yes.
And Help is very much still the like, she's got a ticket to ride. Like, this is still in their popish days. This is not the like, Sergeant Pepper or like
We're
Rubber
getting weird.
Soul.
We're getting weird now.
Yeah. So it's interesting too that everybody was really sick of Paul's crap because he wouldn't shut up about the song he's obsessed with.
Trying to be Beethoven or something.
Yeah, and not that the song is weird, but still it's just that even they said
it was a left turn for a pop
they had to
band.
say, do we just say this is by Paul McCartney? And they said, no, we can't screw with the Beatles, guys. Just throw it in. And so there's a lot of interesting things about how you can't just look at the song as in a vacuum. It's as equally important to look at the rest of Help, because interestingly, Help was basically written as the soundtrack to its own like movie, right? Again, during Beatlemania, they were cranking out these hilarious dumb movies. It's practically, just like a different version of Benny Hill or Mr. Bean or something, combined somewhere in between it, where they're kind of aloof and goofy, and always getting into hijinks,
but fun.
So it was just, it already was a far more lighthearted situation. That, there was a bit of touching on the melancholic with like, here I stand, head in hands. Like, okay, you're getting there a little bit, but like not just this solo acoustic thing with a quartet. It is so standalone on this entire album, and it was
radical for 1965,
and for the Beatles especially.
Yeah.
So that is another reason that this came out of nowhere. And it's interesting. Again, we'll probably return to it. Novo has a little bit more of an idea of how things work. I am a shotgun blast of 18 thoughts at once that you get them at once. That's what you get.
No, we like it. We like that.
But yeah, I mean,
like the shotgun.
Everyone agonized over how long Paul worked in it. So it's funny that Lennon's name is first. Lennon said some bitter later about how I was like, I definitely never wished I wrote that. It's like, so you wished you wrote it, clearly. And it's just so interesting that they were also against it. And then you have to wonder if these guys were your friends and bandmates and they heard you practicing this beautiful song Obviously, if I heard it for 1,000 times, I might have snapped too. But it is just so neat that here it is, and it's one of their most famous songs.
I'm really glad you brought up Help, because when I was
Need
preparing
somebody,
Help,
not
uh,
just anybody.
Help,
You know, I need someone. No,
Help.
I thought that was going to be 7 or 8 seconds. You've done it.
Crap. No, we switched off a few times. No one listens to our show. It's okay. It's fine.
I wasn't going to say it. I was like,
No one
who
cares.
the hell is going to tell on us?
We've joked about this from the beginning, guys. If it was just me and Philip, doing the show,
It
to
would just be Novo's
one
idea, Weird Al.
person,
Novo's idea, Weird Al.
it'd still be the same show. We'll still do
It'd
it.
be the same thing.
We would do it for a broom closet, guys. So because we enjoy this. This is our passion. This is our love is the art. So we're going to talk about it. Now I'm going back to Help. I'm glad you brought up Help, because when I was preparing for the show, I first listened to the entire album of Help, and my God, does Yesterday stick out like a sore thumb. So I get why they were like, oh, I don't know about this one, guys. This is such a departure
Yeah, again,
from our
like,
usual
do we
sound.
even put this on the album, or should we even call this a Beatles song?
Well, the history there is fascinating too, because it was such a departure that they refused to release it as a single in the UK. You could only listen to Yesterday through the context of the album Help, where in the US we got it as a single and then later got it in an album version, which is so fascinating to me. And it still was, and of course, it became an instant hit, and it's beloved and still beloved to this day. That's why we're still talking about it. And that's I just think it's fascinating that they were scared of it almost. And then finally, when they, you got to let your babies go, right? And the arts, you just got to kind of let it go, see how the world responds. And guys, I think they like it. Something tells me this one's going to stick around for a while. So he has made the royalties and accolades he has made off of this to this date, just for this one song, is in like almost 20 million for this one song. Of course, they make a lot more from the other ones, but just one song is quite the royalty feast. Now let's talk lyrics, Philip. Let's switch gears. There's no names, there's no backstories, there's dramatic facts.
We have a couple of she's.
Yeah.
There's a she.
So of course
or two
there's
in
going to
there.
be instant universal appeal. You could put yourself into these lyrics. I will say something that I can't stop thinking about a little bit though, but maybe we can hash out. I mean, yeah, a lot of them are, vague enough and open enough to interpretation that I kind of get what he's talking about to the most part, except for the second stanza is, oh, yesterday came suddenly. Yesterday came suddenly. And that one I can't stop thinking about, because if you look at the rest of the stanzas, the lyrics of what he's, this longing for the past, and that either he
2
wants
days
to go,
ago.
right, either he wants to go back to the past to reclaim something that he thought he lost. When yesterday came suddenly, is he talking about the immediate present in a different context? And that's where I'm not even sure if they knew what they were writing, kind of a thing.
Yeah, John, it's interesting. John even said, don't get me wrong, it's a nice song, but it's also about nothing.
Right.
And then Paul
right.
himself weirdly never elaborated on the lyrics. Even he actually supposedly tried to spin a bit of it was actually more of a memory about a time that I upset my mother, which is interesting because it's still just, well, if you're thinking of a time when in your childhood when you were upset, it's just something, what 9-year-old says, I'm not half the man I used to be, or that it could be inspired by that story. And that, of course, and now that he is a man and he has a different way of expressing his feelings, but it's still just, it's interesting, the ambiguity about it. And that, yeah, because there's no names and no definitive actions, that does lend to the approachability some, in that everybody has some kind of she, whether it is a sister, mother, daughter, aunt, cousin, best friend, whatever, right? Lover. There's lots of she's just as much as lover. And if you swap these out for he's, it's the same
thing. Yeah.
Same thing.
Absolutely.
It could be anybody, because there's all kinds of people that you can love. Love is a very present thing. And we all do wonder, like everybody's accidentally, I've accidentally upset friends and lovers and family. Like, so it's not something you could pin down, in the same way that sometimes you can't pin down that sad feeling. Sometimes you just like, why am I so bummed? Like, what has got me so down? And I think in a way that it's it's as if that it did all sneak up on him, and that yesterday happened, and that he is genuinely also just as caught off guard. It's almost like a live replay that we are at a man in his not finest hour, and there's not much more that you can read into it, but I think that helps. Interestingly, as a big fan of pretty chaptered and vague storytelling through various games of From Software,
Mm,
it's actually it can be an incredibly strong storytelling point to give just enough things that are concrete, that are very understandable, and always leaving a vagary, because your brain, and by your brain I just mean any listener, the
mm.
listener will fill that space in, and so that in essence leads to the genius of the song, because it makes it all the more approachable for every person. Their brain fills in what happened yesterday. What is this sadness? Who was wronged? We don't know. And everybody can find a way, whether it is imaginary or actually happened, if it was a real instance. But it's not a hard thing to listen to and go, I totally get that.
I'm that person,
Yeah,
you
I've
know?
been there, or I've at least seen it. But I mean, way more of the I've been there. We don't know who's and everybody's there is different.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think a good, fun little mid-show T-Buck tangent quarter is T-Buck Tangent Corner. Tangent Corner. There we go. Is their demo lyrics for the piece. So they had the vocal melody. They had clearly, but they didn't know what lyrics they were going to add to that melody. The original was something like scrambled eggs. Oh, how I love those legs, something like
Yeah.
that. And I found that to be quite funny, and that kind of touches on, we like to close circles on AOTB, and that kind of touches
Wait,
on
am I supposed to be doing that?
why Philip started with his noodle preference at the beginning of the show,
It,
because it
I'll
was food appropriate
I'll
to
be honest.
yesterday.
It was going to be like a who's on first thing. It was either the Al Dente thing or this whole Laurel and Hardy
Oh, he
yesterday
gave some
who's on
real
first
thought to
style.
this. Okay. You
Dude,
really were
it
thinking
was
about,
like,
how do I come
"Hey,
in
Philip,
on
what'd you
this
think of
episode?
yesterday?" "What do you mean? I didn't see you yesterday." "No, the song yesterday." "What song? You weren't around me."
Oh, I
Like,
love
"No, the
that.
song by the
Oh,
Beatles." "I don't know any Beatles. What are
I
you
kind
talking
of
about?"
wish you did that one. Like, well, we're doing it now, so it's
You
okay.
got it anyways, but there's just
Yeah.
it felt more appropriate to go lead in with the noodles.
Well, it is a food song technically from their demo lyrics. So I think you were starting with the noodle thing
Mhm.
was appropriate. Because my favorite form of egg is scrambled. I do like a scrambled egg.
Same.
Sometimes I like
Can't
an
stand to
over
eat runny
easy,
yolk.
over medium.
I can do over
Dip that
medium.
yolk in the toast.
Over medium's the best I can do. I can't do a runny yolk.
Oh, I like a little runny yolk. I don't mind. Dip it in
Can't.
the toast. Dip it in my pancakes. I don't care. Let's get messy, man. Let's get weird in here, kind of
Dude.
thing. But that was so eventually they landed on what we have grown to know and love, which is the actual lyrics. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away, etc. The rest is history.
John actually was almost bummed when Paul finally he was like, "Oh, it's called Yesterday," and these are the words. He was like, "I was actually kind of sorry that the joke was over."
And it's funny because didn't John isn't that part of the reason it is dubbed a Lennon McCartney song and not a McCartney Lennon song, is because he came up with Yesterday. It was him that said we should start with Yesterday, and then they added the lyrics from there. Even though Paul did most of the heavy lifting here.
Yeah, I
Let's
was
be
gonna say
honest. It
Paul
should be
Paul
it
wrote the
should be a
majority of the
McCartney Lennon
lyrics.
song.
Yeah,
Yoko.
as well
I'm
as
gonna
all
die
of the
on this
music, as
hill.
well as the fact that it was solo like none of the other Beatles. It's
We're
interesting
on
that
it, right?
the recording, there's a
Well, they
recording
did
of it.
try.
Yeah,
They
there's a
did try
recording of it that
drums and bass
has
and them,
the
but
other
it
Beatles
didn't
in
work.
studio, and even one that's still just a Paul take where he's clearly still telling the chords to George, because you can even hear George like say something back.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting that he was the only one, like the version that we know is just Paul and the quartet, and that, yeah, as far as the writing credits should go, that again, if you're gonna admit that the man agonized it after over it for that long, how wouldn't he be the most credited? But I think it's because John helped put the nail in the coffin. He was the one who's like, "Look, let's sit down and get this done." And it really could have just been that he said, "Here's how to resolve it," and there's the word yesterday, and somehow his 10% contribution being the nail in the coffin, or maybe he was just there the day of like the printing of the recording, who knows, but he got his name first. And again, it was called a whole Beatles song, even though you really could have just called it Paul and George Martin, because George Martin did the
Right.
string composition.
Right. They weren't ready to
Paul did
do
not
the
do
solo
the
thing
string.
yet.
That was also one of the things that I had actually never bothered to look into before. I was like, I knew the guys were talented, but I'd never heard of Paul composing. And so the producer George Martin is also listed as the composer.
That was the fifth Beatle, let's be
I
honest.
know that he was the fifth Beatle, but again, you never know if somebody can just play bass or holy crap, this guy can compose. You know what I mean? Like it's
Like a
not easy to
Prince,
do
yeah,
a
like
string
Prince can do
quartet. That's
everything.
not something you just turn around and
Well,
do.
I would say Paul McCartney was one of those musicians. I feel like I don't think he could
He could have
I
been,
don't think
but
he
like I
could
said,
probably do
with
strings,
where
but he
they
could play everything pretty much.
yeah, but again, just with where they were in their career of just this pop, like hot pop band from Britain, he was not at a point in his musical career where he would be composing a string quartet. Is all I mean. For the sake of like how it worked into the rest of the song. So yeah, so George Martin deserves credit more than anybody because he composed the strings and I do think the strings are also part of what makes it so melancholy and adds to the bittersweetness
Oh, I
of the
think it's
song.
so perfect
That
with the strings. I love it
that
with the
yeah, like
strings.
it
I
helps
couldn't
bring it
imagine it any other
yeah, that exactly,
or
that
any other
they're
way.
so vital. So it's interesting that you would think that John would have composed. No, John didn't even compose. So it's very hard to distinguish what John truly did to get his name even on it when the guy who did compose at least a minute or so of a quartet doesn't, other than just him being producer.
Well, credits are weird.
Yeah.
If you really think about, I mean, yeah, we talk about Steely Dan a lot
Yeah.
on the show, and Philip talks about the Steely Dan effect and things like that. And when you look at their history, it was uncanny how many uncredited studio musicians helped them, build those pieces that they had in their head. They're like, okay, play this. Clearly they were probably directing them, right? The Steely Dan original duo was like, okay, they'll probably play it on instrument. This is what I want you to do here. This is how I want you to make the solo sound. And, they probably were writing it in a way and they would have other musicians help bring it to life with the arrangement. And it's kind of the same thing here. The composition as a whole is powerful. Is before we move on to composition as a whole, it's credits are hard. I guess my point is like you got to give credit where credit's due. And in the long storied history that is modern popular music from these 40s and 50s to modern eras, we're getting close to a century of this industry. We still see it to this day, but guys, don't forget to give the love where it's deserved. Give credit where credit's due. And I think we'll probably still see a little bit of dispute about these things. Probably yesterday, like once they pass away, you'll probably see their kids disputing it or something like that. Until then, let's talk about composition as a whole. Now, what makes this piece? So we've talked about every kind of most major aspects of the piece. So let's talk about it as a unified whole, an entire piece, and why it works so well, and why it's been covered so many times. Going back to that accessibility, is it works perfectly solo or with a huge, crazy orchestra. It works fast. It works slow. It works in a lot of different styles and genres. It is the most accessible song on the planet. And I think to start to look at some of some conclusionary points, much in the vein of our show A Day in the Life, where we covered one song and it happened to be a Beatles song at the time as well, it also signaled something for the genre that pop music could be quiet and serious and even a little sad. And that was okay. So it started to give other musicians permission to do the same. And that's why its legacy to this day is we have entire books dedicated. This is a 1 hour or like 40, 45, maybe an hour show we're going to do today for you guys. There are 8, 10, 12-hour books that are dedicated to exploring this song or the album, its history, what Paul was going through when he wrote it, what the rest of the Beatles were going through when they wrote it. It's like it just has is such a staple to modern popular music and culture and society as a whole.
Agreed. It is one of the other. It is such a perfect example of the less is more, and they between the styling of the song, them playing with the sort of, again, like the key of the song, everything was it was like a multi tightrope act. Is almost or like it involved because there was the transitioning between the different A and B styles sections segments of the song. So I mean, it's almost like a full on different circus act, like in that you're tight roping this one rope of the subject matter. You're tight roping the fact that this is not your current style. You know, you're transitioning. You're jumping onto like a trapeze and getting on like landing on like the strings catching you and bringing you back to the first rope that you landed on. It's a delicate balance. This song, as we've said, was agonized over,
Yeah.
and it shows. It shows why. It shows that even before Paul was obsessed. Paul was really worried that it had actually already been done. When it came to
Right.
him and he
He thought he
rushed
was
to a
plagiarizing
piano,
someone.
yeah, he was actually genuinely worried. He was like, "This is too good. There's no way somebody else didn't do this, or I just must have heard this the other day." And he went around to all his music contacts and practically was giving them a free preview of this, what was about to be like one of the biggest songs in the world, if not
Yeah.
ever, at least in
Yeah.
modern music. Of like, hey man, does this sound familiar? Have you heard this? That's wild. And I mean, so it really meant so much to him. And I know that as an artist and knowing so many other artists, it is your mission to bring to life the truest form of what it is that you were able to dream up.
Hmm.
And there is nothing that is more frustrating than feeling like you're missing your own mark. If you can't hit your own mark, then no one else gets to hear what's in your head or see what's in your imagination. It's almost like even leading up to it, like the precursor of just from the moment Paul conceived of this song, he knew that there was something about it. And it's interesting that those around him had to ridicule him because they benefited from it in the end. Like I said, even later in life, John Lennon went on to write lyrics that teased, if not almost made fun. I mean, like again, once the Beatles broke up, they all seemed like they were quite combative, adversarial, whatever. And not only was there again a quote where John was projecting his off about he literally said, "No, I definitely don't wish that I had written yesterday." But then also that he went on to write a song that very clearly says, "All you ever did good was yesterday, and then you moved on to another day." And those are literally both. "Another Day" is a later song that Paul McCartney
Another
did in
Paul
his
McCartney
solo
song.
career.
Yep.
So it's like you still lived in his head rent free, man. The clearly that is you can lie about it, but this song means a lot to you too. It's undeniable. It doesn't matter like how it was experienced or who's interacted with it. It's got that universal appeal of being simple enough to be approachable and deep enough to keep you coming back for more.
So let's tie a bow on this B
Did I just do that?
and give a good people. Well, I think there's a little more. I think there is a few points I think can really wrap this B up. And so let's give the good people a too long didn't read and tell the good people why this song is so special, so beloved, so covered.
Well, again, it's approachable. I mean, I'm almost positive that I've tried to cover this at least once. I used to do cover shows when I was in my more musical days, and when I was at a bar. I mean, yeah, I had an acoustic guitar. It's perfect. It's a great way to bring the room down, or kind of transition from one thing to the next. It's just a beautiful song, and again, it's so popular. Again, whether you are the person playing covers as a cover set in a bar for, like make your 100, $200, or if you're going to karaoke or something, granted, that would be a bit of a bummer. But regardless, the approach is you, of course, appeal to your audience. You do something that they like. It is or sorry, that at least everybody knows so that if you like it,
They
you can
can
sing
sing
along.
along to it.
Everybody knows it. It is just safe. It is such safe territory. Everybody knows it.
I have one word for you: timeless. It is a timeless beauty of a song.
Also, that is 100% is correct as well. It is.
And it gave, as I already put, it gave future generations permission to be vulnerable with their music, and in a way to say to them too, with that vulnerability, you too are worthy. I think this song gives us permission, gives us the opportunity to be vulnerable, and it too reminds you that you're worthy. With that being said, guys, there you have it. Yesterday. by the Beatles from top to bottom. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank my guest, of course, for joining us today, Mr. Philip Church of philipchurch.com.
Mwah.
But before we go, we got a little extra for you, a little icing on the cake, a little cherry on top with what we call the gem of the week. But guys, before we talk gems, let's talk their sponsors. We'll be right back.
Art of the Beholder is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is our go-to tool for remote podcast recordings. What's great is that you can record separate audio and video tracks, and it's all backed up on a secured cloud, so you never lose your hard work. Even better, it's easy to use, and there's nothing to download. So go to Zencastr.com, Zencastr.com, and use promo code Art of the Beholder to get 30% off your first 3 months with a pro account.
Now back to the gems. I have one gem, and that is this. I'm late to the party, but because of Pluribus and Vince Gilligan, the universe told me to finally check out Better Call Saul. And I have not been disappointed. Why did I miss this ship so many years ago?
I missed it as well, and I liked Breaking Bad.
I loved Breaking Bad, and I've loved all of Vince Gilligan's work. I said in our Best of show, 2025, the best TV show of the year, in my opinion, was Pluribus, another Vince Gilligan joint. I wanted a little more of Rhea, the lead from Pluribus, who played Carol. And I got that in the form of Better Call Saul, and I can see why they casted her. And I also wanted to learn more about the Breaking Bad, universe, if you will, the narrative and things like that. So, guys, if you haven't been living under a rock like Novo over here, go ahead and check out Better Call Saul.
I have had the wonderful fortune to get the follow-up podcast to my favorite comedic podcast. I'm curious if you remember the name of that podcast, Novo.
The only podcast that I remember you gushing about so much that stuck in my mind is Mission to Six.
Yes, I did my job. They have
it's
come
a
back.
Mission to Six joint. It's
Yes.
the same team.
So it's a prequel. They picked.
They're back, baby.
There was a very freak. There was basically somebody who
I thought I was going to be way off.
No, I don't do a lot of podcasts. You either would have nailed it or yeah. It's the whole cast except there was one guy who, again, I believe he's friends with one of the head writers and founders of the show. Who
is that the guy you did the interview with?
No, I did that with just one of the regulars of the show who kind of who joined along. I think well, again, I think they all had a certain amount of hand in creating the original idea, but it's a little more attributed to the guy named Alden Ford. And I interviewed Winston Knoll, who was a full and regular cast member and very much, a part of their creative process and team. Again, they were all equals, but Alden has just a bit of a touch of as he might have been the spearhead, or he might be the most official speaker.
Now, what is the name of this prequel?
So the prequel is referencing the character that showed up once every season, and he was basically the idiot hippie drugged version of a Obi-Wan Kenobi to the main character.
Like him already.
His name was Durf Dinkelson.
Like
when you meet him, he goes by Old Durf, and these are the young Old Durf Chronicles. So it's him,
young Durf,
and it's interesting that they didn't want it to just feel like they got bored and did more of the same show. So they truly did restructure it, and the writing style and everything, the way that they're approaching the improv and the scenes. As well as keeping it tighter with fewer episodes per season. I like that they made sure to experiment and that they are putting just as much love into this as they did the original Zix. So to me, it's been a huge joy to finally, I don't know, just laugh a little bit, just have something nice in my day.
Life is short. Find the little things.
Yup. And then I will also just throw this out there for everybody else, but man, I went back and I enjoyed a couple of Dragon Ball Z movies.
Ooh,
they're on Amazon.
Which ones?
The ones about Cooler, Frieza's older brother.
Yep.
Watched those two. Fusion Reborn, when Gogeta debuts in Hell after fighting Janemba. And I watched Resurrection F from the newer Dragon Ball Super series, interestingly, because it streamed into that. I did like the Broly movie. the new Broly movie, and then I watched the original Broly movie. I'm excited to get to Bio Broly again.
Dragon Ball will live on forever. I'm convinced of
Yeah,
this. It will
it's
take
just
on some new
fun.
acronym and some new
I mean, there was just
version.
the reason it made it onto my radar is because the anime, basically, I don't actually like a lot of anime like, I'm very insanely picky. Like, I try to be open to stuff, but I
I
don't love a
like
lot
the
of anime.
hard R.
So I did happen to see that people were making announcements that, like, okay, there's like 2 new Dragon Ball shows coming. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And that just made me go down a brief rabbit hole of like, wow, Akira Toriyama unfortunately passed away last year, but okay, he
That's
he
crazy.
had
Yeah.
written these before. So I think they
Yeah.
just kind of were getting their affairs in order and just realizing, okay, we can still make this even if he won't be able to continue to consult. But he did have a hand in the writing of it and the design of characters and stuff. So it's still pretty legit. It's not just them milking it. But that still just turned on my nostalgia because I was like, oh my God, I remember being in 5th grade. And then I happened to look on Amazon Prime and I was like, Crunchyroll, I'll try you for a week. You've got all of them.
I remember being in 5th grade.
So yeah, so I got in touch with my inner middle schooler and just binged via Crunchyroll a handful of these, just Kakaroto, all that
guys. Guys, check it out. And if you like that, you can always check us out at NovoDayProductions.com. Don't forget to follow us at _Novo_Day and Days DE at AOTV Podcast and AOTV.podcast. One has a dot, one doesn't. If you want to follow Philip, tell him how to do that.
I don't know, just keep talking about me however you were about to.
If you want to Philip. You want to fill up.
If you would like your own model, please contact Philcore. It's a website by the name of me, philipchurch.com, and that is 1 L in Philip.
1 L.
I'm fearful that is going to mess up my taxes someday, that I'm going to find out that my taxes have been being misfiled.
I'm double L Philip.
No, I mean, genuinely, like, I actually did.
And we're about to file them, dude. You better get that right.
I know.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, hit that
Smash
bell. You know what to do. It's internet etiquette. Do what you want to do if you want to do. We love you guys, okay? You know what to do. We got the best audience on the planet. And if you want to sponsor our little love child here, come on. Reach out to us at novadayproductions@gmail.com. You can also use that email if you want to be on the show. Guest, interview, you name it, we'll try it. Okay, we'll try anything once. Okay, skydiving, recreational fruit, and other exciting things. But until next time, be good to each other. And as always, good luck and Godspeed. We'll see you in the next one. We love you.
Art of the Beholder is brought to you by Novo Day Productions. Written, directed, produced, and edited by Novo Day and the NDP Collective. Starring Philip Church of philipchurch.com. That's Philip with 1 L. Music by A Company. Instagram handle A_CO_music_. Logo designed by Tom Justice of thejusticecompany.com. JESTUS. All rights reserved. Thank you again for listening.